Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, Jeff. It's Elise.
Congresswoman, how are you today?
I am doing great. How are you?
Good. Where are you today? I see you've been everywhere lately.
I've been everywhere. I'm looking forward to coming back to the district to Herkimer County this week. I had to stop off in Washington to do a few briefings, but I've been all over the district and all over the country.
Yeah, we saw you out in Wisconsin. You were in PA and North Carolina, I guess. How's it look?
Yes. You know, I am cautiously optimistic. I will tell you, similar to the trends we are seeing in our district in the North Country with more Trump-Vance signs than ever before, in states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Georgia, our early vote numbers look pretty good, very good compared to 2020. And we're just working. We cannot be complacent. We need to work to turn out every vote. But I think President Trump is in a very strong position because on the issues that matter to voters, people understand that when it comes to the economy, when it comes to securing the border, he is the only choice who has a record of delivering border security, delivering economic strength versus the horrific 4 years we've had under Kamala Harris.
Right.
You know, Jeff, when I drive around my district, I count the number of Kamala Harris and Biden signs, and it's less than 10 that I've seen driving around.
Okay, well, that's a good activity for on the road there. Well, tell me about yourself. How close were you to being picked for vice president? You were vetted, weren't you?
Well, certainly it was an honor to go through that process and to be among the final few under consideration. And I have to tell you, it was just a real personal honor and an honor for the district, too. I've worked hard to give our district a seat at the absolute highest level. So to be on the trail with Tim Scott, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, Doug Burgum as some of the finalists was just a humbling honor. I've gotten to know them even more than I knew beforehand, and everybody's doing a great job.
No.
I think J.D. Vance was an excellent choice. I think he mopped the floor against Tim Walz in the debate. I've, done events with J.D. since he's been chosen, and we're working as one team, but it shows the depth and the breadth of the talent we have in the Republican Party.
Okay, well, that's great. Now, I understand, like, when you go to these other states, everybody knows you now. I mean, you're doing autographs on hats and things and stuff like that, but that's a big change from, I remember 10 years ago when you first walked into City Hall and say, hey, I'm running for Congress, and nobody knew you.
That's true, Jeff, and thank you for having me on your radio show. As you remember, the day that I announced, I called into your radio show, and that was my first interview while being a candidate was on your show. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. And look, I'm unapologetic about giving our district a seat at the highest level. We deserve more than backbenchers in Congress. Our constituents, my constituents, deserve a top-tier member of Congress who's able to raise our concerns to the absolute highest level, whether it's in the halls of Congress or with the President of the United States. And certainly, I'm honored for the support and recognition, most importantly from voters in my district, but really the American people. I'm so grateful for their support. They appreciate so much of how we've led, whether it's standing in the breach for President Trump against both of his sham impeachments, whether it's hosting President Trump at Fort Drum to sign the National Defense Bill, or whether it's the work that I've done on a local level, just fighting for my district. People take note across the country about that.
On a local level, this whole immigration border issue, which we've all watched what goes on down in Texas and Arizona, but I've seen some videos that are kind of alarming and some numbers like 500 people a day that come across up in the Swanton sector, which is up around Burlington, northeast New York. And we don't even hear about that here. But what is going on in New York State?
It is a crisis, and I've been sounding the alarm about this for years, going back to the first few months of Joe Biden's administration. I was just up at Clinton Franklin County, right up in some of those small rural border towns, and it is unrecognizable. Families were sharing their experiences. For example, on their deer cams and trail cams, they are seeing dozens and dozens of illegals crossing their private property. There was a really heart-wrenching story of a mom saying on the first week when she was putting her young elementary school-aged kids on the school bus, which is the first week of school, people know how important that week is, how there's a lot going on during those weeks. As the kids were getting on the bus, there were illegals that started banging around the school bus. This is in rural North Country, in Cherubusco, in my district. And again, it's because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's wide open border policies.
Yeah.
What I've advocated for and what we need to deliver is making sure that we have the Border Patrol resources we need, that we end the catch and release policies, and my goodness, we need to get rid of our governor, Kathy Hochul, and defeat her in 2 years, which has had sanctuary, state sanctuary.
Is that going to be up to you to defeat her? I mean, will you be running?
We got to win this one, Jeff. We have to win this election cycle. But I do think New York Democrats, it's really crumbling, and it's a party in decay. And we're going to see that play out in the congressional races this cycle, Jeff. You know, New York delivered the House majority, with those 5 seats, and that is where the bulk of the spending is happening this cycle, are those 5 congressional seats, not mine, but the others, the Brandon Williams seat in Syracuse, some of the Hudson Valley seats in Long Island, and I think we win them all. And President Trump is going to do better than ever before in New York State. I'm excited he's coming to Madison Square Garden. But people will be looking at New York in preparation from 2 years from now for the governor's race. Well, and I do think it's important to note Kathy Hochul is so underwater. You know, I never thought I would see numbers lower than Andrew Cuomo. Kathy Hochul makes it possible. And President Trump has higher approval rating in the entire state of New York than the Democrat governor, Kathy Hochul.
Well, getting back to these the border issues, my understanding, excuse me, these people fly into Montreal on tourist visas, and then they get somehow bussed over to the border. They walk across, and there are buses to pick them up here, and they take them down Route 87 to New York City.
Yep, right through my district. So the bulk of the illegal crossings are right in the Swanton sector in my district, and it has been a catastrophe. We have raised the issue of this multiple times. Initially, our Border Patrol officers were being transferred to the southern border, but as the numbers crept up and up, which I raised major concerns on, they now made sure that at least our Border Patrol officers are able to stay on the northern border, but they are absolutely overworked. We don't have enough personnel. The bill that House Republicans passed, the Secure the Border Act, that would boost our numbers of Border Patrol, including on the northern border, so that's very important. And most importantly, it returns to the effective policies of President Trump, which on day one, he will issue those executive actions, and he will have a Congress that passes the Secure the Border Act with a Senate, with a Republican Senate.
Yeah. What's the deal now on this missile defense system? The Secretary of Defense has thrown some shade on it at Fort Drum. What's the latest?
Oh, it's a political attack. You know, the Biden administration is in total free fall. They have always opposed missile defense, but this is, you know, a political attack because we've been such effective advocates for the missile defense site at Fort Drum, including funding the initial plans, the environmental impact study, the site selection process. You know, I've gotten that language in every national defense authorization bill, and there's been increased funding every year. You know, this is a long-term project, but I was able to get it through with bipartisan support. Meaning that I, at the negotiating table with the Speaker of the House, was able to protect that language, and I'm on the committee called the Conference Committee that negotiates that. But you know who has been totally absent in advocating for that? Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. I should, in this case, have 2 strong partners. Chuck's about to get fired as the majority leader of the Senate.
Right.
Because we will flip the Senate, and they just have been completely absent and towing the Democrat Party line that we don't need missile defense. We do need missile defense. Look at the increased threats from around the world, whether it's Iran, North Korea. It is a national security crisis. So we're going to keep working on it. I've led and carried that, and I will do it again.
What's the deal with this Proposition 1 on the ballot? It sounds like a good thing, equal rights. I mean, who's against equal rights?
No, this is a desperate attempt by the Democrats to try to boost turnout, and it is not an equal rights amendment. It opens the door to illegals getting taxpayer-funded on top of the already taxpayer-funded benefits that they get in New York State. It also allows boys and men to compete in girls and women's sports. It forces boys in women's bathrooms. But really the biggest issue, I would say, is it paves the way for illegals to vote in elections. We have seen that New York City Democrats have tried to do that in the municipal elections in New York City, and it was because of the lawsuit that I helped file with the New York GOP that we were able to defeat that. But this is what it's all about. It's a power grab by Democrats. So vote no on Prop 1. Make sure you turn over your ballot.
Now, 4 years ago, when your predecessor in leadership, Representative Liz Cheney, was around, she had some harsh words for Kamala Harris, who was running for vice president. And then yesterday, I saw Miss Cheney sitting right next to the vice president, extolling her virtues. How do I reconcile that?
My predecessor in the conference job, who I overwhelmingly defeated, and then, of course, her voters in Wyoming sent her packing, and she will never hold elected office again. She's a full-blown Democrat. She is running as a radical, far-left, tax-increasing, gun-banning Democrat sitting side by side the candidate who is going to lose this election in historic fashion. So it's a disgrace. What a disgrace for a family that previously had very strong conservative, sterling conservative credentials. She has shred that because of her personal ambition, her obsession with her hatred for not just President Trump, but for the American people. She really dislikes voters.
Does she look
felt entitled to the job and leadership. We're not entitled to these jobs. We have to earn them, whether it's the support of our colleagues in leadership or the support of our constituents, most importantly.
Vice President Harris has said she would have a Republican in her cabinet. Would Ms. Cheney likely be that Republican if it happened? Or is that what she's a
Republican? That individual actually says she's not a part of today's Republican Party. I don't know. I assume she's still registered as one.
Well, the media calls her one, yeah.
I don't know. We're not even going to get there, Jeff, because we are focusing to make sure President Trump wins. And based upon what I'm seeing in the district, in every swing seat, Kamala Harris is underperforming President Trump. That's including in the swing seats in New York. But you see the enthusiasm and momentum in these key swing states.
Now, I've been trying to talk a lot on the air to promote early voting as a concept, but it really is alien to a lot of people up here. And I know it starts this Saturday. Will you be early voting in New York?
Yes, I have early voted in person in previous elections. When we first had that ability in New York to do so, I voted early in person to promote that. Early voting starts October 26th and goes to November 3rd. And the county locations for Jefferson County are the Watertown County Office Building, the Adams Municipal Building in Adams, and the DePauville Fire Hall. So those are the locations. You can go to any of those three locations in the county. And just remember, you have two members of Congress now. I have the towns of Luray, Wilna, Philadelphia, and Antwerp. The rest is represented by Claudia Tenney. So you get two great Republican congresswomen that, depending upon where you live, you can vote for one of us.
Okay, and it doesn't matter where in the county you live. You can go to any of those three locations, and they'll...
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
And the hours are on the Board of Elections website and all that. When you got into office, you were the youngest congresswoman ever, and then that title was superseded a couple of years later by AOC. Do you two ever see each other or get along in any way?
We see each other sometimes in the halls of Congress, and, you know, we've taken very different paths. Certainly, she does not reflect the values of upstate New York, and I think it is a detriment that she's campaigning in some of these swing districts because she has really represented how far left today's Democrat Party has become. But, of course, I see all my colleagues every day. But what I'm most proud of is if you look in New York, we were the state that fired Nancy Pelosi and delivered the gavel to the Republicans as the only line of defense from single-party Democrat rule.
Okay, well, that sounds good. We'll look forward to seeing you up here in the district. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us?
Yes, I'll be in Herkimer County this week. I just finished up a visit in Washington County. I was up in Clinton and Franklin County as well as Essex County. In Warren County, I will be in Lewis County for the Lewis County Republican dinner. I'll be touring Lowville Academy and doing visits. So I look forward to seeing my constituents.
Okay, well, I'm sad that I was drawn out of your district by the redistrictors, but I can...
Me too, Jeff. Me too, but I really appreciate this opportunity to go on the radio show and just what a long road. It's been 10 years, and I'm so grateful for you giving me an opportunity 10 years ago to go on the radio show when so few people gave me any coverage or would take our campaign seriously, and look at the history we've made in the district.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thank you again for your time. I know you're a busy person, and good luck next year in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. And you sound great, by the way. I'm glad you're doing well.
Well, thank you, ma'am. All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
All right, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik there. I asked my questions.